What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Diggers podcast here on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. It is Friday. You know what that means. Mimosa Michelle is here. What's up, Michelle?
Hey, Mimosa Michelle is mimosa-less, which is sad. That's always a sad Friday when I don't have a mimosa in my hand. But we, you know, I don't feel like I deserve to celebrate after how the 49ers performed last week. I don't get to have another mimosa until they win a game, which they should this week.
Yeah, it's a shame, but we haven't done this in a little while after a loss, but I don't like it one bit. We're going to get to previewing the game. We'll get to best bets, obviously. But I always say if you take the time to leave a review on the podcast, we will take the time to read it. This one comes from Stephen GV, who says hot takes and cold truths. Robert, statistics. It is great hearing from you and Levin, the Truth Black, and the gang to help the faithful get through the week. Love Mimosa, the convert. Michelle, she keeps our feet on the ground with an outsider's perspective, and we can tolerate Cone too. Love the pod. A lot of nicknames in that review.
I think nicknames go a far way, though. They feel a stronger connection, right? And I love the wet blanket for Levin. That goes with him so well.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so I like it.
All right. Well, before we get to previewing the game, I want to give a shout out to Community Tree Service LLC, our YouTube partners. We're so excited to be partnered with you and have you as friends of the show. If you are if you are from the Central Coast to the Bay Area, anywhere in between, they will hook you up. Tree trimming, land clearing, hazard tree removal, home fire hardening, debris removal you need taken away. Call Community Tree Service 831-763-2391, or you can email estimating@cts831.com. Their website, communitytree.com. Estimates are free. And more than that, if you mention you're a Niners fan, they'll give you $200 off your quote. If you are a Ravens fan or a Cowboys fan or a Seahawks fan, they'll charge you $200 more. So maybe, don't mention that part of it. But Community Tree Service, we love you, and they are licensed by the California State License Board, license number 1100816. If you had to pick a team for the 49ers to play after the debacle on Monday, at least from a defensive perspective, I don't think I could pick a team better than the Commanders, Michelle.
So there would be one exception to this. I would pick the Commanders with Sam Howell and not with Jacoby Brissett. So that's the only thing that scares me slightly, because Jacoby Brissett doesn't care, right? He's just chucking it up. I mean, the Commanders were doing anything against the Jets last week, and Brissett comes in and almost wins the game because he has no fear and he actually utilizes Terry McLaurin and has a connection with him. That's my only fear. But in terms of the defensive side, the Commanders are extremely terrible. They have nobody that's going to be able to stop the 49ers weapons. I think Brock Purdy has a huge comeback game, bounce back game. And so much of that game last week, I did feel like was really bad luck, right? Like everything was going against the 49ers. Now, I definitely underrated the Ravens defense. Don't get me wrong. I think they may have heard me talking crap about them, and they came out to play. They were no joke. They were fantastic, but everything was just bouncing their way as well. And I at least it was an AFC game. Throw it out. It'll be fine. And they get back on track this week against just a terrible opponent.
Yeah, and I don't mean to disparage the Ravens defense. They won. They did catch the ball. They made the plays. But I'll say this. The 49ers were going up and down the field on them. They were on pace for 500 yards of offense in the game. So, yes, the Ravens defense did a good job, but the Niners were moving the ball. I don't think the Commanders are going to have nearly the same amount of luck this week with turnovers. So I expect the 49ers to go up and down the field on Washington. If they don't turn it over, and I'm looking at you, Brock, and I'm looking at you, Ronnie Bell, Mr. Loves to fumble the punt return. If they don't turn it over, the Niners are going to put up yards and score points in this one pretty much at will. Like, we could legitimately be looking at an Eagles situation where they score every time they get the ball. That's how the Commanders they're last in the league in yards allowed. I think they give up 30 points a game. Levin had it yesterday that they're on pace to give up the fourth most points in a single season anybody's ever given up. So you may think I'm blowing smoke, but I'm really not.
No, they're atrocious. Their secondary is so incredibly bad. So I expect Devo to have a huge game, Brandon Ayuk, George, like all of them should have huge games. And you're right. The one thing that can stop this team is the turnovers, right? 12 of their 17 turnovers this year have come in their 4 losses. They're averaging 3 turnovers per game in losses this year. That's the worst in the NFL. That's the only thing that hurts this offense is the turnovers. If they control the ball, they're safe with it. No one can stop this offense. I will say the defense for the 49ers scared me a bit last week. That may have scared me even more than the offense because the Ravens, especially in the second half, they could just do whatever they wanted. There was no one even close to these receivers. I thought they would be I didn't think they'd struggle to stop the Ravens wide receivers here, maybe a little bit with Isaiah Likely, but I couldn't believe how wide open Zay Flowers was just over and over and over again.
That was frustrating because it's like, once again, the other team's number one option eats against the 49ers defense. That's not the first time that's happened. Gameplan.exe watching on Twitch says stats. I think you've had the best, most even keel take on the loss this week that I've heard anywhere. I have been way more positive than other 49ers podcasters and certainly a lot of 49ers fans. I've tried to keep it in perspective because everything that they want is still in front of them, Michelle. They win Sunday. They beat the Rams in week 18. They're the number 1 seed, which is exactly what we wanted and hoped for at the beginning of the year. If you told me the Niners would need to win their last 2 games to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, would you sign for that right now? I would have said absolutely yes. Now, if they somehow manage to lose Sunday, I'm going to go nuts and lose my mind. But right now, there's no reason to do that yet.
Yeah, if they lose Sunday against the Commanders, then you go back to that 3-game losing streak. And I mean, I know they ended up putting it back together, obviously, and then went on this great run. But you would really like to see one loss not start to roll over 2 more bad losses like it did earlier in the season. There's 0 reasons to lose to this team. I don't like, I know I'm kidding with this whole Jacoby Brissett over Sam Howell thing, and it is an upgrade for them, but it's still Jacoby Brissett. It's not like they're putting out Tom Brady out there or anything. So there's just no reason that this isn't a blowout, let alone a win.
I absolutely agree with you. Aaron Rodriguez says, hey, Rob, what do you think about the 49ers curse? Every team that beats the Niners, their QB1 gets injured in the following game. I hadn't noticed that. Is that actually true? Because if so, then the Ravens are in trouble this week. We'll just say that. Let me go back and look. So Cleveland beat the 49ers, but their quarterback was already hurt coming into the game. PJ Walker started that game for Cleveland. Kirk Cousins, did he get hurt in the next game for Minnesota?
He got hurt in the Green Bay game.
That was after San Francisco. Oh my goodness. And then Joe Burrow. When did Joe Burrow get hurt? I need to go back and look at this now. If this is a real thing, did he get hurt against Buffalo? Let me see. No, I don't think he did.
I think he got hurt against the Ravens, maybe.
He played the whole Buffalo game. So I don't think that curse totally holds up. I mean, eventually Joe Burrow got hurt, but still, that is a crazy thing. I just want our quarterback to stay healthy, please. Brock Purdy's had stingers in back-to-back weeks. That is not, a good thing. But I did read an article in the San Francisco Chronicle where they interviewed a doctor who basically said stingers, unless your body is physically set up in a way that, will make you more prone to stingers. Other than that, like once you get better from it, you get better from it. And he thinks what happened with Brock is that even though he was feeling good after the first one, he probably wasn't 100% healed. And then boom, he got hit the next week and sort of like re-aggravated it. But those are the first 2 stingers that Brock has ever had. So he's not like predisposed towards them. So hopefully it shouldn't be an issue.
I'm not even going to lie. I don't fully know what a stinger is.
So a stinger is, there's like nerves in your shoulder. And when your shoulder gets hit a certain way, the nerves get irritated and you get like a burning kind of stinging sensation in your shoulder and your arm and maybe the back of your neck. And it can lead to numbness. That's really the big thing. It's not really the pain, it's the numbness. And it can last for 5 minutes, or it could last for much longer, could last for a week. Like it just depends on whether or not those nerves settle down.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. He seemed like he really wanted to come back in. He was ready to come back in. I think if it was a closer game, he would have came back in. And so I'm not worried about him moving forward.
Yeah, I think that if the offensive line wasn't basically Swiss cheese at that point and it was closer, he probably would have gone back in. But I think Kyle was like, you know what? Let's just see what happens.
Listen, I can it's like this line, Trent Williams' health matters so much to this line.
Mhm.
It's insane how much they fall apart just because of one guy is not there. They really need to work on this depth this offseason with this offensive line.
Yeah, well, in that game, it wasn't just Trent Williams. It was Trent Williams. His replacement had a concussion, so he went out. Aaron Banks, the starting left guard, aggravated his turf toe, so he went out. So they had no offensive linemen on the bench in that game because that's how low they were. So it was bad. Not that the offensive line is that great outside of Trent Williams anyway. Sign Me 29 says, I got the same shirt Michelle is wearing for my daughter and I. Wore them for the first time on Sunday. Not sure we can wear them again.
Oh, no.
If you'll notice, I'm not wearing my hoodie today, Michelle. I switched it up. They lost.
I'm wearing mine.
I know, which is making me nervous. When they lose, I got to switch it up. I'm going no 49ers gear today. That was an intentional decision by me.
So now if they win, you can't wear 49ers gear for the rest of the year. That's so lame. Why wouldn't you just try? They're going to beat the Commanders. Try on a different 49ers gear.
I'll have 49ers gear on during the game, but Friday I was going with 49ers gear and they lost. So now I have to switch it up. I have to do my part for the team. Although if you want what Michelle is wearing or other really cool 49ers stuff, click the link to Homage, HOMAGE, in the description of the show. It'll take you right there. They have awesome stuff. And if you use that link specifically, we get a little bit of coin of the realm, so to speak. So please and thank you. Please do that. Heinman says Trent Williams for MVP. JJ00 says, lucky this draft is supposed to be crazy good for offensive linemen. And the Niners actually have a first round pick. That's cool. And I'm excited to look at the draft, but not now. Not on December 29th. I'm still focused on this year. Damn it. There's still plenty to play for. By the way, who's still the Super Bowl favorites despite the loss to the Ravens? The Niners are. That is for a reason, because they have a really, really good team. Don't overly freak out about this loss, people.
Yeah, and against the NFC, they're dominant, right? Against the AFC, they're having some struggles. So you don't have to worry about the AFC until the Super Bowl. That's a problem we want to have, right? That's a problem we hope we're going into Super Bowl week and being like, oh, okay, they've had some issues against the AFC. Can they get it together? It'd be wild if it was like the Ravens rematch or something. But against NFC teams, like I feel really good against the 49ers. There's not a team that I would be scared for the 49ers to face in the playoffs this year.
I agree, particularly if they had that week off. If they had that week of rest, I would be like, bring on anybody. Yes, absolutely. Without that week, I'd be a little more scared. I do think their defense is a little tired. I think their defense could use a week off. God knows they have a bunch of injuries right now that we're monitoring. But again, I still think they are the best team. Even without the bye, they can still make the Super Bowl legitimately. I still don't think they're a team that anybody wants to play.
And there's no reason for them not to get this bye. I mean, again, the Commanders, it's like the Rams are a good team and they will probably need to win that game to solidify their playoffs. They can get in even if they were to win. The Rams, they can get in if they win this week and also lose next week if other things happen. But still, you would expect the Rams to be playing all out. So that is going to be a hard game. And the Eagles are really their biggest competition right now for this number one seed. And they have 2 easy games. So maybe that's where you worry when it comes to week 18. But the 49ers just need to get this done. Win these 2 games that are easily winnable, and you get the bye. And they just got to figure it out. Handle your business.
I was literally just about to say that. The mind meld is complete. Gameplan.exe says sports superstitions are a complex equation, Michelle. Apparel, person, seating, drinks, watching, company, etc., etc., etc. 1000% Gameplan.exe. 1000%. When that game started to go sideways for the 49ers, I changed locations. I changed clothes. I tried everything I could do.
It didn't help, huh? The team wasn't like, oh, stats is in the right location now. We could start playing better.
I'm just saying they went into halftime despite the 3 picks with a chance to take the lead with 1 good touchdown drive. All right.
Did it happen?
I'm not a wizard. I can't do it all by myself, but I can do my part. I can try. You're telling me when you watch the Steelers, you don't have any superstitions. You don't have anything like that.
I don't even wear Steelers gear anymore during games because I feel like they're really bad when I wear Steelers gear. So I do. Yeah.
Yes, of course
But
you
they're
get
just
gear.
really bad often, even when I don't wear Steelers gear. So I don't think that really matters.
Getting a lot of love from the Twitch commenters about my product plugs midstream. Thank you very much, everybody. I happen to work at ESPN with Mike Greenberg for a long time. He's the best person I've ever seen at that. So I got a lot of experience around somebody that's really, really good at that. Strawberry Reacts says, any chance the Rams lock in at the 6th seed and just sit starters? I don't know that they can lock in. They can clinch a playoff spot this week.
Yep. And you guys need to be the biggest Steelers fans this week, because how they clinch it is the Rams just have to beat the Giants, which that should happen. And they need the Seahawks to lose to the Steelers. And then they clinch that playoff berth. Again, I don't know if it is, the 6th seed they would definitely get. But if they clinch it, they may. I mean, does it really matter if you're the 6th or 7th seed?
So if you're the 7th seed, you would play the 2 seed. Right now, that would be the Seahawks are the 7th seed, the Eagles are the 2. If you're the 6th seed, you play the 3 seed.
I think the Lions are the 2 seed, aren't they?
No, the Eagles win the tiebreak over Detroit based on strength of victory, which, holy crap, that's like the 4th or 5th tiebreaker, I think. Strength of victory is pretty far down on the list. But that could obviously change with 2 weeks left in the season.
Yeah, I think if the Lions win out, they're the number 2 seed, because probably the strength of victory would increase against Dallas. And I don't know who they played the last week. It might be Minnesota. So I think they would beat them out then.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a slight difference based on who you might play. I would much rather play the Lions on the road than at home. I'll say that. I think they're a much better team at home.
Yeah.
But the Rams could clinch the playoff spot. Let's see. So the Rams have 2 more games. So the most wins they could get to would be 10. The Cowboys or the Eagles will be I don't think the Rams can get higher than 6, because the loser of the AFC East is going to be the 5 seed, and they both are
100%. The Cowboys and Eagles have locked in that number 5 seed. Whoever one doesn't win the NFC East, so it's the 6th and 7th, and I think at that point, like, you can't stress about your opponent too much in that situation, because too many things can change also in week 18. I will say, though, there might be something there with the Rams not wanting, the division rivals to get that number 1 seed. They're probably going to play all out during that game.
It would depend too. Like, Stafford is a guy that's usually pretty banged up. How banged up is he? Do they want to try and give him a week of rest? Who knows? A lot of things could change. But again, the number one thing for the 49ers is handle your freaking business. Beat the Commanders, okay? And I'm interested to see, is Brock a little shook? Like, is he? Because the thing about Brock that you loved is he went out there and he freaking slung it, man. Dude's open, I'm letting it rip. I don't care if it's 5 yards open or if it's 35 yards open, I'm letting it rip. But because of all the interceptions last week, does he go out there like, oh, yeah, he's kind of open, but there's a guy close and I don't want to risk it? And does he get a little gun shy? Because that's what you don't want.
Well, I mean, 2 of those interceptions were off. There was 2 off batted passes, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it was him making these insanely bad decisions and throwing it over. The one in the beginning of the game in the end zone, yeah, that was bad, right? But the others, and I did feel like he just kept coming out not having the interceptions in the back of his head. Maybe until after the 3rd one, maybe that got to him a little bit. But I don't think he's going to come out here nervous. But also, it's the Commander secondary. They do not have anyone that's going to put any pressure on these playmakers. They're allowing the 4th most yards after catch per reception this year as well, the Commanders. So, like, no one's going to tackle Devo or Ayuk, or especially Kittle. Like, it's just not going to happen. I expect them to all just have massive, huge games. If you have them in fantasy, any of these playmakers for the 49ers, like, you're going to do great.
Everybody into the pool. Brock's press conference yesterday was incredible. I thought it was so honest and informative. I've never heard a quarterback just be that, like, down to earth and open about what he was thinking. So he said last week that on that first interception, he was so pumped up about how they had hit some big plays and they were kicking ass early in the game that he was like, you know what? This isn't the right coverage. I'm going to jam it in there. Things are rolling. Let's keep the train rolling. And so he forced it in there and it was intercepted. He said, like, he got caught up in the emotion of what was happening. I've never heard a quarterback admit that. I kind of like that he admitted it. And what he said was like, hey, I've got to be smarter there and not get caught up on those things. That is a young quarterback mistake, right? That is just a guy who has not paid the penalty really for trying stuff like that during a game. Well, he paid the price. They had the interception, the points were off the board, and it came back to bite him in the ass. And hopefully now he has learned from that going forward.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great experience for him to learn about before the playoffs. Like you don't want him getting cocky like that in a huge playoff game, and then that's what starts what am I trying to say here? Not unrival.
Unravel?
Oh my goodness, I give up. You
You're
guys
not
all know what I'm trying to say.
Are you sure you're not drinking?
I'm not. I just have issues saying some words, and apparently that's one word I cannot say. But I'm happy he learned this before going into the playoffs. That's all I wanted to say. And I do think these moments for him are so important. We were saying this a lot last year, right? Like we wanted Brock to be put into some tougher situations before the playoffs. And he kind of got that with the Raiders game and they came through and they won. But he's seen a lot more tougher situations throughout this year. And I think that only helps once you get into such a serious playoff game. And now he can remember, okay, I messed up that Ravens game a handful of weeks ago because I got too cocky and I wasn't trusting the system and the play calls. Now, when he's in that situation, the playoffs, hopefully he remembers that experience.
Right. And his games are only going to get bigger going forward. They're in the playoffs already. He's going to have playoff games. Hopefully he's going to have a Super Bowl. If he's getting caught up in the emotion of a regular season game, he's going to have to fight that. He was probably more likely to get caught up in the emotion of a playoff game in a Super Bowl. Now, hopefully he's got that in his head. Like, hey, let's not get, outside of myself here. Let's not let this get away from me. Let's rein it in. And especially in this system, you really don't have to try to make a play. Just get it to the open guy and they're going to do the rest. So hopefully that's in his head too. Like the outcome that I want, a big play, can still be achieved even if I don't try and force things. That's really, I hope, what he drives home this week.
Yeah, I will say as soon as the 49ers got down, though, it really does. There's something with this team where you're like, oh no, like they just really, I don't know if it's the coaching or what, but Kyle Shanahan cannot win a game once he's down a bit. Like he cannot make a comeback. And I know he's not the one out in the field, but what is going on where it's only Kyle Shanahan can't win a game when he's down in the fourth quarter?
So what you're referring to is that Kyle is 0-37 when they're down by at least 8 points in the fourth quarter. And that's the only coach since he became the coach of the 49ers that hasn't had a victory in that spot. It's not that they can't come back when they're down. Obviously, they were down against...
His record is the worst, too, when they're just down by 3 points in the fourth quarter.
They came back against the Eagles, and it wasn't the fourth quarter, but they were down in that game. They were down, I believe, against Arizona also, and they came back and won. I think people are making too much of that.
How much were they down in those games?
Not much, but...
I'm talking about, like, if they start to get down by 8, 10 points, that's where it's like, I mean, we've seen so many comebacks of that. I mean, every single year, every single week, we see comebacks down 8, 10 points. That just doesn't happen for the 49ers. Like once they had a point, you're like, oh goodness, they're not going to make this comeback.
See, I never believe that with this team. When they have an offense that can score from anywhere on the field at any play, I don't look at it like, oh my God, we're losing. We can never, ever come back.
It's not about just losing, though. It's like, yeah, if they're down by 1 touchdown or down by 3 points, yeah, they definitely can come back like we've seen that. They're going to do that. I'm talking about like once it gets to double-digit points, and we see teams come back all the time from that. Kyle Shanahan doesn't. He just doesn't.
They haven't yet. That's for sure. They also probably haven't been down by double-digit points that many times, and they certainly haven't recently, which is a good thing. This team shouldn't be down by double-digit points considering all the talent they have, and hopefully we don't ever see that situation again. Like, I would love for that stat to never be broken because the Niners are just never in that situation again. You can win a
they're going to be in that situation. They can't.
How do we know?
Win every game. You think they're? Oh, you mean this year or?
Yeah, this year they may never be down.
I thought you just meant forever. Oh yeah, this year they could do it.
Right. So that it's not like you have to solve that in order to win a Super Bowl. That's not it. And you, like, people keep bringing up their record against the AFC North because it hasn't been great this year. You may not have to face an AFC North team ever again this year too. Like, so there's so much stuff that like we're caught up in now that might not ultimately even matter by the time we get to the Super Bowl if the 49ers are in it.
Yeah, there's a low probability they have to face an AFC North team, right? I mean, it would be either the Ravens or the Browns. The Browns aren't making it to the Super Bowl, and the Ravens always lose in the playoffs. So very low probability.
Strawberry React says they did last year against the Raiders. They were down by 10. Yeah, but the key is when in the game were they down by 10? Because if it wasn't the fourth quarter, which it must not be because we've all seen that stat by now, I'm trying to go back and look in that game against the Raiders really quickly. I know it went to overtime. So the Raiders were up by 10 in the third quarter, but then the Niners scored at the end of the third to make it a 3-point game. And they was never, no, they were, yeah, it was never like an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter. That's why that stat holds up. But they were down at 1 point by 10 against the Raiders. Yes, just not in the fourth quarter. All right. Let's get to some best bets, Michelle. Last week, we gave you 6. I gave you 3. Michelle gave you 3. She happened to hit on 2 of her 3. I only hit on 1 of my 3. Very ashamed to say. But 50% for us, again, just like we were the week before. Like we're just one. If we could hit one more bet a week, I'd feel really good about it.
Well, the one I didn't hit on was the Christian McCaffrey carries. I didn't expect them to get murdered. I thought it was going to be a close game. I mean, he was on pace to get it in the first half, and then they just didn't run in the second because they got
down. Yeah, they were down. It was 30-12 with like 14 minutes or 10 minutes to go.
I just hit on Brock's though. He hit it. He hit on his last pass attempt. So
I texted you as soon as he hit the over, and I was like, "Look, Brock made it," and you were like, "Yeah, well, he's hurt now, so he just barely made it." But yes, the ones we hit on were the Brock Purdy passing yards over. I told you to take CMC to score a touchdown in the first half because that was plus money, and you doubled your money with that bet. Thank you, Christian. And you had the Isaiah Likely over on receiving yardage, and he hit that. So those were our 3 winners last week.
Nice. I have 3 more winners for you this week.
Oh, see that? See the transition there? That is smoothness right there. All right. You know what I'm going to ask you, Michelle? What am I going to ask you?
What's my best bet?
Your fastball best bet guaranteed to make you money.
You know what? I was going to go with Devo, but I think really any week, just bet on Christian McCaffrey, whether it be touchdowns or scrimmage. I'm going to take his scrimmage yards, right? Because if you bet on his touchdown, we all know you're not winning much money there. But over 121.5 scrimmage yards, it's insane, right? His projections are always insane, but guess what? He always hits it. I mean, he has over 130 scrimmage yards in each of the last 5 games. He did that last week, and the offense, I guess, was moving, but right, he only had 14 carries and he still had 131 scrimmage yards. He still had 103 rushing yards. This guy is just amazing. And the Commanders started off as a pretty good run defense to start the year, but they're just falling apart everywhere. The last 2 weeks, the Commanders allowed Breece Hall to have 191 scrimmage yards, and then Kyron Williams the week before that to have 155 scrimmage yards. I see no reason Christian McCaffrey, unless they're like, the only way he doesn't hit this is if they're up by like 40 points and CMC doesn't play like the fourth quarter. But if they're up by that much, that probably means he already hit the 122 scrimmage yards he needs.
So, yeah, I mean, it's possible that, especially if, like you said, they allow so many yards after catch that maybe a couple plays to Debo or Kittle or Ayuk go for scores, and then they're winning by so much that they pull him. But Kyle usually doesn't do that, though. That's the thing. Like, he usually leaves these guys in there. So I think you got to go with that over. I had that written down as one of them. The Washington defense is so bad. I was tempted to just bet everything. Like, just take every 49ers bet that there is because they stink.
Yeah, you could take all the pass catchers. I mean, I don't have them all written down, but Kittle, Ayuk, they should all hit their overs. But mine is going with Debo because right now his overs pretty low because the last 2 weeks he's only had 48 and 47 receiving yards. So they have him at 57.5 receiving yards in this game. And it's because, he hasn't hit it either the last 2 weeks. But last week I went into that game thinking it was a really hard matchup for Debo, right? The Ravens are physical. I did think they were going to limit his yards after the catch. He had 12 targets and only came down with 4 receptions, 47 yards. If Debo has 12 targets in this game, oh my goodness, he's going to put up 200 receiving yards. But the Commanders have allowed the most passing yards per game this year, the second most receiving yards to wide receivers this season. And again, I've already brought up the 4th most yards after catch per reception. So he hasn't hit this the last 2 weeks, but the 2 weeks prior, 116, 149. I expect him to double this projection, have at least 100 something yards. So I'm going with over 57.5 receiving yards.
You could justify any offensive bet that you want. The one I had written down actually was Brandon Ayuk, 67.5 receiving yards. That's a little higher. I think that was the highest for the 49ers. I think that they didn't use Ayuk enough early in the game. He's so freaking good.
Well, he was a ghost there for so long. I mean, he had that catch early in the game, but I think it was like a good quarter and a half, 2 quarters before he had a second catch. It was a really long time in between.
Yeah, I wrote down in big capital letters in my notes, where is Ayuk? Because I was like, what the hell? But then you look down at the end of the game, Michelle, and you see Brandon Ayuk, 6 catches, 113 yards. He actually put up a lot of yards at garbage time.
At the garbage time when
but
they were just trying to run out the clock, the Ravens.
Yeah, but you could still win money. Like, we don't care for the purposes.
Oh, yeah.
So I have Ayuk over 67.5 receiving yards. I don't think he's going to be that absent from the game plan. I think he's going to be able to get open. And like you said, they allow so many yards after catch. He's not going to need, that's the thing about the Niners too, is like, you don't need all these guys to have 7, 8, 9 catches to hit these overs. Sometimes 3, 4 catches is enough to do it because they just break off these chunk plays. So I will go Ayuk 67.5 yards receiving. That's not my fastball best bet, but since you mentioned the Debo thing, I thought I would mention the Ayuk thing as well. My fastball best bet in the game. Man.
Do you have one?
It's a defensive one, but it has nothing to do with data. You know how I get wrapped up in like narrative and storyline and stuff. Chase Young, at least 1 sack. It's minus 105, which is not great, but not terrible odds. But here's the thing. He's facing his old team. And he said in the media, oh, it's just another game, blah, blah, blah. Nick Bosa said Chase Young behind the scenes is like geeked up, pumped up, like ready to go. And I talked to Jamal Forrest, who covers Washington for Hogs Haven, the SB Nation Washington community. He told me this. I didn't know this story. Like, days before Chase Young got traded, his dad called a local radio station in DC and was like, you're going to see how good Chase Young is when he gets traded. And obviously a couple days later, he got traded. And there were a lot of anonymous quotes from Washington personnel saying the trade of Chase Young is addition by subtraction. So they basically were like, we're better without you. We don't want you. We traded you. His dad's calling up a local radio station saying, watch out for how good this guy is. Bosa is saying he's all pumped up behind the scenes. Washington, oh, by the way, has allowed 60 sacks this year, 6-0. And that's not an exaggeration. That's the actual number. I just have a feeling Chase Young is going to go nuts this week. Give me at least 1 sack, Chase Young, in this game.
So this is my thing. They have allowed 60 sacks, but so many of those are on Sam Howell. And Sam Howell's my boy. I like him. I wanted the Steelers to take him over Kenny Pickett, and I still would prefer that because Kenny Pickett is straight garbage. But that class was just straight garbage, right, of quarterbacks. But all of those have come on Sam Howell. I mean, Jacoby Brissett has played a couple quarters now. It has not been sacked on any of his dropbacks. So he's getting the ball out quickly. He's much better at not taking the sacks. It doesn't mean he's going to be not sacked throughout this entire game as a starter. I'm sure there will be some. What does Chase Young have? Like 2.5 sacks so far with the 49ers?
I think that's accurate. Yes. In 5 games, I think it is 2.5.
I mean, hopefully he's geeked up and ready to go because he needs to do some more. Let's go.
Why
You're playing.
That face? I saw that face. You were like, what does Chase Young even have with the 49? That was
because I expected more from him. And I do think they look better overall with Chase Young there. And I think he's helping out Nick Bosa a lot, but they should be helping out each other.
He's got 2.5 sacks in 7 games. He had 5 sacks in 7 games with the Commanders. But even if
why is his odds minus 105? I feel like it should be plus with him only having 2.5 sacks through 7 games for the 49ers.
I think Vegas is thinking like I'm thinking, baby. I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, Sam Howell, right? 60 sacks. Even if 20 of the sacks are on Sam Howell and not on the offensive line, that's still 40 sacks.
Oh, I think 40 of the sacks are probably on Sam Howell. That dude holds on the ball forever.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jacoby Brissett is clearly an upgrade without question. And he's a big guy. He's 6'4", like 250. He can move, especially for a guy his size. So it's not going to be easy. And he'll protect the ball better than Sam Howell too. So I was not thrilled to see that news. But I think at least once Chase Young is going to get it. Even if it's like a kind of a bogus, like Bosa actually forces the pressure and Chase Young is kind of just in the right place, right time. Like that's all it takes for me to cash this bet. And I'm counting on it this week.
All right. That's your best bet of the week. It's a bold one, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I like your thought process behind it. I'm gonna go with a Commanders player as well for. Oh wait, no, Chase Young's not a Commanders
Not
player.
anymore.
He's a 49ers player. I tried to transition well, it did not work out. I'm going with Terry McLaurin, Commanders wide receiver, over 52.5 receiving yards, and this is all because Jacoby Brissett is playing. Listen, McLaurin and Brissett clearly have this connection. And like I said, Brissett would just throw it up. They have played 21 snaps together over the last 2 weeks, just 21 snaps. And they have connected for 122 receiving yards and a touchdown. So clearly Brissett favors McLaurin, right? And the 49ers have allowed the fourth most receptions to wide receivers this season, which I was pretty surprised to see. They're pretty good at limiting the amount of yards per reception. So the yards aren't all the way up there. They're kind of middle of the pack there, but fourth most receptions. But we saw last week, Zay Flowers was just getting those chunk plays because he was just really not guarded all that often. But I could see him having a similar type game to Zay Flowers with the 72 yards, a touchdown. Like, I don't think McLaurin's going to go off for 150 yards or anything. Maybe he could, but I do think he definitely hits 53 receiving yards.
I think, like you said, he's got good chemistry with Brissett, number one. Number two, let's say that the Niners do their normal thing where the number one option usually eats. That leads you to think he's going to hit the over. Or three, let's say the Niners are killing Washington. Well, guess what they're going to have to do? Pass. That leads you to think that he's going to hit this over. So when you've got a bet where kind of it's independent of the game script, it doesn't really matter how the game script goes. Those are the ones I feel like you should feel really, really good about. I actually did write that down. And his over for catches is 4.5 in the game. To me, he's definitely going to catch at least 5 passes in the game. Unless he gets hurt, to me, there's no way he doesn't catch at least 1 pass a quarter.
Yeah, I think he's going to have some big chunk plays. That's why I went with the receiving yards, so I don't have to worry about the receptions, but I like both of them.
Yeah, I agree. We've seen this too many times with the Niners. I didn't have it as one of my best bets, but Brissett's over for passing yards in the game is 229.5. That's not that much. And the Niners, they'll give you some pass yards. We don't know what the safety situation is because Jair Brown has been banged up. That means it could be Logan Ryan at safety or gulp Isaiah Oliver at safety. Like, that's not great. And Jacoby Brissett's been around long enough that he's going to target that guy. So you can definitely see some over in the passing yardage for Brissett and over in McLaurin's receiving yards.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy, I don't know why they keep it at that. It's 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think he easily gets that, but it's like minus 175 odds or something. So not making any money off of it unless you put down a ton. But if you can find one where they have it at 2.5, you think Brocky can throw 3 touchdowns in this game?
Yes. The only thing that scares me is if McCaffrey runs them in. Like they get down there a bunch of times, but McCaffrey gets the touches.
So let's say McCaffrey puts up 150 yards in this game, a few more touchdowns, or not a few, that would be crazy. A couple more touchdowns, say. He gets in twice, 150 yards. Is he should he really be MVP of the league? Like, I know they're talking about Lamar Jackson now because it was on Christmas night, but Lamar would have the worst stats in NFL history among MVPs. I mean, he's averaging 1.3 passing touchdowns per game. No one has won this award under 1.6 passing touchdowns per game. And it's not like he has a lot of rushing touchdowns either. So it's even like his total touchdowns per game would be the lowest. And I don't know. It just seems like if they gave that to him, it would be really based off of this one game against the 49ers, which would be pretty crazy. So Christian McCaffrey, I think, really needs to be at the top of this conversation.
I think he's absolutely there. Lamar has 24 total touchdowns on the year. Christian McCaffrey has 21. And Lamar quarterback. Like that is
Christian McCaffrey has more touchdowns than Lamar has passing touchdowns on the year.
Right. Because Lamar has 19, I think, right? 19 passing touchdowns. Like, I don't even think, honestly, like Lamar was fine against the 49ers, but they kept setting him up with short fields. So he really couldn't put up a ton of big numbers because he didn't have far to go. One of the drives started at the 49ers 9-yard line. One of the drives started at like the Niners 47-yard line.
I do know that, okay, he has gotten them down the field a lot, and so many of his running backs have taken touchdowns, right? But then also you're playing with an extremely dominant defense. I know that we can use all these for Brock Purdy too, right? But at least Brock Purdy has the stats, right? You can say he has a really good defense. He has good playmakers. Other people like are helping him out. That's exactly what's happening with the Ravens, but he doesn't have even close to the stats that Brock Purdy has. Honestly, I think Brock Purdy, I know one bad game. Like, what if Brock Purdy had this bad game in week 2? No one even be thinking about it come now. I think that one game is getting so overblown. And I think that does to 4 interceptions and zero touchdowns really just probably does knock you out of it. Josh Allen, keep an eye on him. I think he deserves it more than Lamar. This whole it's just because it was played on Christmas night and everyone was watching. I feel like Lamar is now the top contender for this.
That's definitely part of it. Primetime games and narrative is a huge part of it. Modelo Time 1999 just put this in the chat. Jacoby Brissett added to the injury report with a hamstring injury. I actually did not see that. Let me just do a quick Twitter.
If it's going to be Sam Howell, you need to sprint that Chase Young.
Okay, so he's questionable. Ian Rappaport just tweeted, Jacoby Brissett is now questionable with a hamstring injury that he suffered in today's practice. He was just added. It opens the door for Sam Howell potentially stepping in and starting again. Something to monitor. Wow. Does he really have a hamstring injury? Is this the Commanders trying to, jerk the 49ers around a little bit?
Why would they? They're out of playoff contention. Like, what would be the point of playing all these mind games? But I will say you need to get that bet in for Chase Young already. Like, it needs to go in. Even if Jacoby's hampered and has a hamstring, that should slow him down a bit. And then if it's Sam Howell, he's going to be sacked 100 times in this game.
Man. Oh, so this is fascinating because this is just for people that don't know how it works. The sharps, the smart bettors are doing exactly what Michelle said. They are running to the sports books right now because they want to get the best odds right now because the odds are going to shift very, very quickly. In fact, they may already have shifted.
Yeah.
Based on this news. And
they may have already taken it down.
The sharps want to get that bet in before Vegas has time to react. And you have a very limited window in order to do that. I'm just going to check really quickly. Let me see.
Are you going to do it while we're recording?
Oh, is it gone? Let me see. It might be gone.
No,
it's still there. It's still there and it's still at 105. You know what? I'm going to do it right now. Give me I'll take the risk. Even if, like you said, if Jacoby's hurt and he can't move around as good as maybe you think.
You wanted to do it anyways, and now you have a chance that it's going to be Sam Howell. And if it's Sam Howell, he's going to get eaten alive. My poor man. If he could just fix that situation, he has a great arm. He's a good playmaker. He has mobility. He just holds on to the ball for 500 years.
He was leading the league in passing yardage for a while.
I know. And then he had to face some really tough matchups over the last handful, like the Jets and the Cowboys, I think. I don't know who it was, but still, yeah, he was struggling.
I got the bet in.
You got it in. Let's go.
Yeah. I feel super good. Let me give one more because I actually have only given 2 right now. So I'll give a third. And you may have to convince me here. You've got me looking at these longest reception bets, especially with the 49ers. They always rip off chunk plays. The longest reception, and maybe you could help me make sense of this too. The longest completion for Brock is 40.5 yards. But the longest reception for the 49ers player is Ayuk at 26.5. How are those two things possible? If you think if you're putting a line for the 49ers in the mid-20s, how is Brock's line over 40?
Well, I think you're trying with those guys, you have to pick the correct one to get the 40, right? So I think that's what comes in. They're probably assuming that those guys have a chance to hit the 40, but you're not going to put that all the way up there. Nobody would place that bet. Everyone would take the under, right? And that you're choosing with Brock, it could go to any of those guys. With those guys, it has to be them. Just one outcome.
True. So do you like Ayuk at 26.5 or do you like Kittle at 22.5? Washington's pretty good against the tight end, I think. But George is like, even with 1 or 2 targets, he's still getting like 50 yards a game.
I like both of them, but I like Kittle's a little more. What's Debo's?
Let me look really quick. For some reason, I decided not to write Deebo Samuels down. He is at 23.5. So he's at 23.5. Kittle's at 22.5. That's the lowest. And Ayuk is at 26.5.
26 is long. Like he's definitely going to have some 20 yards or 20 yarders, right? But is it 23? Is it 24? 25? 26 and a half is pretty long. So I would go with one of the shorter ones because I do think all of these guys have a 20-yard catch in this game. So if you want to go with the lowest one, that would be Kittle, and I think he hits that.
Kittle had 7 catches for 126 in the game, including a 58-yarder. He has been getting chunk plays. Like the 4 or 5-yard passes to Kittle, those have kind of gone away. Now when he goes to Kittle, it's 15, 20, 25 yards. I think I might go Kittle. He's the lowest of the bunch. He's probably the least likely to hit it, but I think I don't know. He'll get one. Just give me one pop. Maybe they do that crazy ass double fake screenplay and then hit Kittle wide open over the middle. That'll do it. That's going to be a 20-yard play. I'll take over Kittle 22.5 as my third best bet.
I like that. And these two teams just played week 16 of last year, not too long ago. Kittle had 120 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. So he was the leader of the pack.
Sheldon Salazar says, just curious, is this your real voice, Rob, or is it just your radio voice? Either way, great voice. Well, thank you. It is my real voice. I will say that there's some processing and stuff that the microphone does that helps me sound a little better than I normally do. But no, this is my actual voice.
I will say my dogs are barking in the background, so I'm very sorry. But I will say there was one time I heard you on a different podcast. I don't know if you had different equipment, and I did not realize it was you for a good 5 minutes, and I had no idea I was listening to you.
What podcast was it?
No idea. It was like a year ago. I think I told you at the time, your voice sounded 100% different. So it's so weird how different equipment can make your voice sound. I wonder what I sound like to people.
Yeah, the microphone, I'm a microphone geek, just so everybody knows, because I'm an old radio guy. The microphone you use absolutely has an effect on how you sound, 1,000%. Plus, I'm a little sick right now, too. I'm fighting something, and that usually, especially in the early stages of my sickness, gives me a deeper, definitely a better radio voice.
Raspy. I need to get sick to have my raspy voice.
Seriously, sometimes it actually makes you sound better, even if you feel terrible. Okay, so just recap quickly your 3 best bets for this week.
Yes, so they are Deebo Samuel over 57.5 receiving yards, Christian McCaffrey over 121.5 scrimmage yards, and Terry McLaurin over 52.5 receiving yards.
Can we call Terry McLaurin TMC? Or is that no good?
TMC.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin, TMC. Like Christian McCaffrey is CMC.
No. He's not good enough to give him that nickname, but just no.
Sheldon Salazar says Michelle greater than Kay Adams.
That's not true, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Michelle is a huge Kay Adams fan, so you were never going to get her to go along with that. My 3 best bets for the week: Chase Young, at least 1 sack, especially now that Sam Howell might play. I feel that has skyrocketed to my fastball best bet for sure. Kittle, longest reception, over 22.5 yards. And I totally forgot my third one.
Yep,
totally forgot
it. The Chase Young one?
No, the Chase Young I had, and the Kittle one I had. For some reason, I can't remember the third. Did you steal? I know I liked the McLaurin, but I don't know if I gave another one. Maybe it was Brissett over 229.5. I don't know. I just forgot. You'll have to listen to the show.
Well, no, you had Brandon Ayuk's receiving yards.
67.5. Yeah, that could have been it too. Take all of them. Take everybody into the pool. The more bets you take, the better your odds of hitting them, right? What the hell?
Oh, yeah. That's a great lesson to teach people. Just keep betting your money. You'll win sooner or later.
Keep pouring your money. The important thing is it's not my money. Let's be honest.
Only bet what you can afford. Don't be crazy out there.
Yes. Only bet what you can afford to lose. Assume you're going to lose it all, and then you can make your bets.
Oh, yes.
Gameplan.exe says, stats, if I stream 95.7 the game on Sunday morning from a different app, does that give you credit for the ratings? I want to support you from Oregon. First of all, thank you very much. If you don't know, you can hear the Gold Standard Network Hour on 95.7 the game, 8 a.m. Pacific time, Sunday mornings. It's a new show. It's not a rebroadcast of a podcast. So if you listen to all the pods and you're like, oh, I don't need to hear it, it's different. The only place you can get it is 95.7. If you stream from a different app, I don't know the answer to that, honestly. But you know what? You do what you got to do. We appreciate the support. Michelle's going to try and be on the show next week, which I'm very excited about. You big timed us this week, so don't think I haven't forgotten about that.
Big timed you.
Yep, too busy to join the show this week.
Listen, you know how much work I had to put into a few days because Christmas was Monday. It was busy. All right, but I'll be there next week, and I'm very, very excited.
Did you have a good Christmas? I didn't even ask.
I did. I had a wonderful Christmas. What about you?
It was all right.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't even. Nobody got me alcohol. That's one thing I was kind of bummed about. I didn't get a bottle of wine, a bottle of whiskey.
Is that something that normally people get you?
Yeah.
Oh.
I like alcohol. It's an easy.
I would not get you that. I would not think that would be a present that you'd be looking forward to.
It's
Why
an
don't you just go buy it yourself?
Well, obviously, I could buy myself anything. I'm a grown man. But if we're talking about gift giving occasion, by the way, my birthday's next month. Just saying, anybody out there,
I have a very fancy bottle of dark rum that I will never ever drink if you like dark rum.
Nah, rum is not my favorite. Where's your mug, Michelle?
Oh, I should have that with me, but I don't have any mug with me. I'm just drinking water right now. I'm such a lame-o.
I got everybody on the Gold Standard team a mug, a Gold Standard Network mug with our show logo on it. And
awesome.
No one has brought them on the pod this week. I'm very upset at all of you.
That is very rude of us. We should have all brought it. I did not think about it. But I do love my mug. And you sent 2, one for my wife. So that was very sweet.
Of course I did. Without you guys, there would be no Gold Standard Network. And I am very, very grateful for that and all the support. So thank you. Thank everybody out there for all your support. By the way, if you want to become a YouTube channel member, you can. It's less than $3 a month. Please support the channel. You get custom emojis, you get membership badges, you get priority comment response. Come on, less than $3 a month. Please, please do it. Support the channel. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell so you'll know when we go live. And we'll be live after the game. For the Instant Reaction podcast, we're always live after the game on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. So hop in. God help us if you want to see angry Rob. If the 49ers lose, you're going to see me absolutely lose my mind in this one. So that's why you need to join either way. We got a super chat from Sheldon. Thank you. Love all you guys do. Best 49ers pod by far. I like when you guys get sidetracked and we get to know you a little more. See?
We need to all just have a gathering. We should do a Gold Standard like meetup. We should all go to San Francisco and do a Gold Standard meetup. That would be so much fun during the off season.
I would love that. It's weird that none of us actually live in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I'm in Connecticut. You're in Texas. Jason Aponte's in Jersey. Steph Sanchez is in Colorado. Vish is in Illinois. Grant is out there. That's true. Grant on Wednesdays, he covers the team, obviously, so he has to live out there. But other than that, we're all spread out. We've never been.
Maybe we'll see someone come to meet us and give Grant a little punch in the face or something. I
got into it this week. Oh man, there's a long line. I have a feeling there's a long line for that opportunity. I'll just say that Grant has a way of getting under 49ers fans' skin, specifically this week, because he was claiming that Brock Purdy got benched and that Kyle wanted Sam Darnold to throw a touchdown because that would have started a quarterback controversy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he and I argued about that one. I will say this too. If Darnold or the Niners score a touchdown there, it's a 1-score game at the end of that game. As much as the Ravens kicked the hell out of the 49ers, now he didn't score, so we can't say that, but they actually fought a little more than the final score looks like they fought.
Sure. Wow. That's all I have to say about that.
Just poo-pooed that.
The Ravens kicked their booties.
Well, they did, and I said that from the word jump. And God, the Niners are going to be pissed this week. I think they're going to come out and try and smash the Commanders.
Hopefully they don't push it too they are going to be pissed, right? But maybe their emotions can run too high and start making mistakes. They need to just play their game. They're way, way, way better than the Commanders. Just play your game as you usually do. And if they do that, they'll smash them. Don't overthink it, Don't
get out coached by Ron Rivera, you're saying?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't think that's possible.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. We'll talk after the game.
Bye.